People think the soil world is the real world. Now, I've never thought of it like that. To me, the soil world has always been a waste of time, too much of a struggle. It's filth. It's filthy when it's dry, and when it gets wet, it turns to sludge. Black, thick sludge, which cakes to your skin. You can brush sand off with the back of your hand, and you can try that with soil, but you'll end up with dusty fingers, and your hands will look like you've got vitiligo. You have to wear shoes to keep it from sticking to the soles of your feet, so on top of all that, you've got shoes to worry about now, and shoes aren't cheap. Some of the leather ones go for big bucks. You have houses to worry about, other people to worry about, weeds grow on soil. You have to be on the lookout for weeds constantly. You might trip on one, or they might ravage your mint, or whatever people grow. Why would you want to live in a world infested with pointless little growths? It's a waste of time. Sand is pure. It's fluid. It's tiny. It's nutritious. It's a nice, inoffensive beige. And when the soil world ends and the food turns to dust and the water becomes salty and offensive to the taste, sand is going to swoop in and cover the earth, and it's going to thrive. I side with sand and the sand world for plenty of reasons, but the one which keeps me here more than any other is as follows. Sand always gets the last laugh.
Any man can climb a sand hill. With enough perseverance, it's child's play. But it takes a real man to fill himself with enough sand to form a hill.
You might be right there. But this man, this sand-filled man, cannot just only have sand to fill him. Sandanity, sangresi, sangrosi. The three pillars of Sanada.
Sand wisdoms are a pure form of expression, the purest form of expression. It's considered similar to poetry in certain ways. I can understand that. I can see where the similarities are drawn, but it's so much more than poetry. It's got much more of an impact, and it's far less fruity. It's just a way of passing on life lessons and knowledge of the sand, but without having to explain it so simply and coherently.
Such beautiful days.
Yes.
So many tears.
Yes.
We cry, we both cry over the years. The sand, it's our home. Crest Bunny-O Run Roan. Oh, good, crazy Sonata. You beautiful, dusty man. Sand me down. Oh, sand me down.
Sand wisdoms are a sand art form, originally, so they're spoken in either English or sometimes in Sandspeak. Sandspeak is the way it was spoken in the first days. That's the original way in which Sonata himself passed on his own sand wisdoms. I wrote about this in the Sand Bible. It's all in the Sesquin Stole Sonata, which translates to the story of Sonata. It's the religious text. When I wrote that Bible, I wrote it initially as just a way of scaring Slobech into staying in the sand. I thought I'd put a bit of fear into him, fear of God. God I came up with was a little guy made out of sand. Soil dwellers are wandering by. They discover him sitting there. He explains to them soil is bad, and then he brings them the miracle of sand. Boom. Done. Religion. Called that little god Sonata, which I like that name. Sounds holy-ish.
A small group of travelers we now know as the original Salter Sand left their homes and went in search of a greater power and the true way of living. After walking for 500 days across harsh soil terrain, they came across a small man, 12 inches in height. The man was sat in a deep, dust-filled pit.
He absolutely loves that Bible, Slobech. Ooh, is it Slobech today? That might have been yesterday. Today might be Busk Road. Hard to keep track. Our names change on a daily basis due to the sand baptism, so very easy to lose track. Big part of the sand religion, baptisms, big daily practice, the main daily practice. Baptisms are simple. You wake up in the morning, You unbury yourself, dust yourself off, then the baptism begins. You get yourself nice and buried and you stay in there for as long as it takes. The idea is that they're meant to cleanse you of your sins, and they sort of show your dedication to the cruel and unrealistic and unreasonable rules of Sonata. So the more riddled with sorrow and guilt you are for your actions, then the longer you keep that head of yours buried. When you rise up from the sand, born anew, you shout out the first name which pops into your head. That's the name that you've got for the day. Now they are daily, so you're going to get a lot of the same names a lot of the time. I'm so bussa right now, but yesterday I was Solar Ranasa, and tomorrow I could easily be so bussa again. It's just complete luck of the draw. You want to try and get the same name 2 days in a row, then you're good, because you haven't got to remember a new one.
Runsunska.
First thing you're going to want to do once you've got your new name for the day is you're going to want to feed. Now the best part about living in the sand is that everywhere you step, you're stepping on nutrition. Certainly not an easy thing to do straight away, eat sand. A clear transitional period. When you first start off eating it, really don't like it that much. It gets in the teeth. It dries the mouth out, something awful. It really gives the gums a bit of trouble. But after a month or two, you'll wonder why you hadn't started sooner. Sand itself is comprised of, you got hundreds of little pieces of shell in there, animal, stone, whatnot, so that's hundreds of flavors in every mouthful. Might come across as jarring to the soil dwellers, but it's certainly not what goes into the mouth that matters. It's what comes out of it, which is important. So basanai, so banaras kranot sandidstin, sus sore salutinus sore substain, bloke krena kremsa tessa. Lobach comes from a family of crab boatmen. Now I highly doubt that the correct term for their profession is boatman. To me, crab fisherman makes more sense, but they do prefer boatman. His dad even had his name legally changed to Boat Crabman when he was 19. So they're pretty serious about it. Lobach always wanted to be a part of the old family business, but he's got a completely irrational and crippling fear of the ocean, which sort of puts a stop to any potential catches. It isn't as though he simply can't go for a dip in the water, he can't even bring himself to look at it. That's the reason why he came to the sand in the first place. That was to battle his fear. Figure the closer he was to it, the easier it would be to battle, but he hasn't done that. He just cowers in the dunes. It's also the reason for the shell blinkers he's got strapped to his face. He put them together to help with his condition. He looks completely absurd, but anything which keeps the whining down to a minimum is a plus for my sanity. If I could, I would stick them directly to his retinas. His family completely disowned him when they found out about his fear of water, which is a bit of an extreme reaction. The only photograph he has of them is one that he took from their home before they kicked him out, and they've actually scratched his little face out of it. He's been here in the sand for 8 months, and he still salutes every fishing boat he sees on the horizon. It makes him feel closer to them. Again, he looks completely ridiculous, but it keeps him quiet.
I'm never going to see, the beautiful sea. I hate the sea, the crabby sea. Rum tee tee tum tee tee. A little crab boy, a tiny crab boy, baby crabby crab crab. Crabby crab boy, crab boy, rum tum tea crab. Why my father, he sits out there on the sea, crabbing, crabbing, crumb tittle tea. I'm a crab man, a baby crab man, crabbing all day. Oh Godfather, why do you hate me? Oh no, oh no.
I've been living here on the dunes for going on 3 years now. My history is a sad one. Grew up a poor little soil boy, never been successful in business, but I've found my ways of surviving. Found myself a woman, mid-50s, kissless, longing for love and very, very wealthy. Dead parents left her everything. I married her 2 days after we met, and she went through all of the money in just over a month. We would have been absolutely fine, but she insisted on coming with me every time I went to expensive places. Bali, she was there. Bora Bora, there. Restaurants, hotels, etc. Really wound me up, to be honest. I had to sell the house, that money went in no time. Nothing left to sell, no relatives to milk. I had to make a decision. And I decided that it was best we moved to the beach. She didn't like that one bit. She refused to eat only sand, and I refused to listen to her constant complaints about only eating sand. We were doing okay, until she had the bright idea to go and get herself pregnant. We're twins as well, so that's double the frustration. Her water broke all over my jacket, so I had to wait for that to dry off, and then I got on with the delivery. First kid popped out, covered in muck, weird little head, but it was my angel. Beautiful kid. Quite the miracle, actually, becoming a father. You don't expect it. And I wasn't really paying attention to the other one when it slid out, but it wasn't boring, but it certainly wasn't as special as my little angel was. Lucky for number 2, though, I did lose track of which was which after about an hour or so, though, so they were back on a level playing field. Undoubtedly a tough birth, maybe 6 months early. Lasted 12 hours, she wasn't in the right surroundings, no towels, and I wasn't going to ruin my jacket again. She had complications, my wife. She had a bad time. She didn't survive the childbirth. I had to put her down. The kids, though, the kids are the most important thing. My 2 little girls. Well, they could have been boys. I didn't have time to check. I didn't even have time to give them proper names. I just called them Sandchild 1 and Sandchild 2. They certainly took after their mother in that they wouldn't eat sand. Flat out refused. If it hadn't have been for the pounds of sand I force-fed them, they would have weighed next to nothing when I buried them. It was actually when I was on my way to bury the kids that I met Robust. I was taking him to the East Dune to bury him, or the West Dune, one of the dunes. He was down there by the waterfront saluting at boats when I saw him. I asked him about the saluting, what was that all about? T-shirt he had in his hand, the photograph, why he had shells stuck to his face. He started waxing lyrical about a father called Boats, which was very confusing at first, about family disowning him, fear of water, yada yada yada. We had a little chit-chat. I explained my whole situation as well. Wife took the piss, dead kids, so on. He very kindly offered to lend a helping hand with the digging and the dragging and everything, and he's been following me around ever since. Been a bit of a duo, kind of. Got a lot to get done during the day out here on the beach. What with the offerings to Sonata and the baptisms and such. But we pray hard to play hard. You've got sand entertainments. We've got a few of these that we enjoy. Sand games, these are quite common. Basically, you go to the beach, you grab a load of shells, small crustaceans, get some pebbles, so on. You gather those up and you bring them up to the playing arena. Now, the arena itself is not a set area, it's just sort of a spot with enough room for 2 people. Psychological arena, if you want to call it an arena. There's no physical arena to be seen, though. You can move your pieces forward, back, side to side. You can throw pieces if you like. You can throw them to either topple your opponent's defense or just to intimidate them. You get 1 move apiece until you've captured your opponent's pieces, or until 1 or more of the players becomes bored, and then the game sort of fizzles. Another one you've got, another sand entertainment, is sand dancing. Sand dancing is very good, very popular. Fairly simple. 1 person watches, they clap a beat. The other one listens to the soul of the sand and dances. Person dancing is known as the sand muscovez. The fella clapping, that's the sand clapacium. We change, though, we take turns, alternate roles. When I'm sand clapacian, I like to keep the clapping fairly uniform. I like it quite simplistic, but Buskroad, when he's sand clapacian, he likes to change the pace from time to time, and that'll catch you off guard if you're not paying attention. It's not as simple as it may seem, sand dancing. It's actually quite an intricate form of expression just through gesticulation. It's without a doubt our second most athletic activity. The number one most athletic activity, which is also the oldest art form in the sand way of life, and my personal favorite, wrists only. Wrists only is a beautiful display of human ability. It's a battle royale. In the soil, you fight with your fists. Everyone fights with their fists. You might be lucky enough to see someone throw an elbow or a knee or maybe a kick. All of those are archaic. What we did with wrists only is we took the idea of a martial art and we manipulated it so that it focused solely on one singular body part, the wrist. An individual who has mastered the art of wrist only, they've earned themselves the right to the title Grand Wrist Boy, which is not an easy title to achieve. It actually takes weeks of practice. When a match begins, you get two Grand Wrist Boys. They enter into battle violently, and they will continue to fight until they get tired, or until their wrists become too red to continue, and then you have to put a stop to it. During battles, we tried to work with a point system. We made certain body parts hit zones, and then attributed certain values and points to those body parts, to those hit zones. But we found we'd lose track quite quickly during the fight, so we decided to scrap it. As of right now, there's no way of determining a victor. You can't really win or lose. It just sort of happens. For all the difficulties you think we'd face here in the sand, we've got a pretty good thing going. Krentes can get a bit frustrated, antsy sometimes with the whole only eating sand thing. Throws it away when he's meant to be feeding. He thinks I don't notice, and that's insulting to my perceptiveness, first of all. Secondly, waste of perfectly good food. You can be a weasel and starve if you want, but give me the food, I hate waste. He's also got a surprisingly pathetic, poor sense of direction. He gets lost a lot. Really quite astounding. I don't go and look for him, but I will certainly sit there and wonder, where has he gone? Could be gone for an hour, could be gone for 2 or 3 days. It's not really my problem. Some days certainly are easier than others. Brosant's bought the whole religion thing, hook, line, and sinker though, so it keeps him from acting out too much. And he might have a tantrum every now and again. From time to time he catches an attitude, sure. But everyone's got their desire to rebel. No one wants to conform completely. Ultimately though, I know he respects me and I know he knows his place. For me, it's a very smooth existence. It's very relaxed. I've got very little to fret about. I hope that one day people will open their soil-covered eyes and they will finally see the true way of living. I hate to think that I'm better than other people, but it's fairly difficult to draw any other conclusion at this point. I don't want for money, or bread, or shelter, or clean clothes, or dental hygiene, or any of that nonsense. I only want for sand. And sand is everywhere. I'm inundated with sand. If my children had made it to an age at which they had learned how to speak, they would have thanked me. Hell, they would have worshipped me. It makes me upset that I can't worship me. I lay in the sand and the sun beats down on my reddened face, and Sonata smiles down on my actions. I live as sand. I exist as a grain. Forever a happy grain.